Man, oh man. The amount of goosebumps that I had gotten from this chapter were ridiculous. The raw emotion for this chapter was there. Remember in my last chapter review how I talked about that Yami versus Dante, that ending when he did Death Thrust would be such an amazing anime moment? Well, this too. That ending for this chapter, that's gonna be an amazing anime moment. And man, I can't wait to see that. But let's dive deep in this chapter review because I don't want to waste any more time. We can't dive too deep because we say that for the chapter breakdowns. But let's talk about Black Clover chapter 257, Endeavor. So this chapter begins with the aftermath of Yami using his dark magic death thrust spell, but of course he says a funny line in between this. He goes on to say, sorry I blew away your body, but your body patterns is very similar to a target plate. And the reason why I find that so silly because Dante's symbol on his chest, it is like a target plate. It's target practice. It's like you're shooting darts and you're just aiming for the bullseye. And that was for Yami's case. And it glows. I don't think this really helps Dante at all. That's just an easy target. That's why he lost. Just kidding. But anyways, Dante starts talking to himself saying that how come there is no way that a human can beat me at full force? Is this why I have a pathetic look on my face? And the face he makes in this panel, it looks creepy. This is the creepiest face Dante has ever done so far. And him saying this lets us know that this is probably the first time Dante has ever lost. This is probably the first time he ever lost to anybody. And what's interesting about this is that Yami is giving Dante different emotions, new malice every time they fight, the longer they fight. He tells Yami that you are a really hateful person, but thank you. And then he starts healing himself, regenerating the body parts that were split open by Yami's death thrust. Dante then goes on to explain that his original magic is body magic. It is a self-renowned ability that is boosted up by devil powers. Now that line right there, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but I don't want to get too deep until we get the official release. But one thing I will say is that it is interesting that even Dante's original magic is still affected, in some sort of way by devil powers. So it lets us know that the Dark Triad's original magic has some sort of influence just by the devil powers themselves, despite their second attribute. So I do find that intriguing, but I do have a lot to say about that when we talk about that in the breakdown. He then goes on to say that, so I don't die or I won't age. And you see Yami and Vanessa, they are all freaking out like, wow, and saying this guy isn't human anymore. And you see Dante is pretty much a giant at this point now. And one thing to take in is that if he's this big at 80%, just imagine at 100%, he'd probably be almost the size of Demon Licked. Probably a little smaller, but probably close, and we don't need that to happen. But another thing, he talks about that he doesn't die or he can't age. Now, a lot of you in my comment section for months now been theorizing and asking me questions saying, do you believe the Dark Triad members or one of them, they can't age because they have devil hosts? And now you guys were kind of right. But it's more in Dante's case because now that his physical magic, it gives him the ability to pretty much be immortal. So you guys were on the ballpark. So Vanica, Xenon, all of them more than likely probably age, of course, but Dante's, just because of his physical magic or body magic, is the reason why he doesn't age. And it makes sense how it works, but him being just immortal like that, it makes you think how he's going to die eventually. And that is for a big video, but he's like Zamasu in Dragon Ball Super at this point. Dante then goes on to explain that he doesn't like the fact that he used his body magic. He doesn't like it at all. It's ugly to him. He doesn't like the way his body deforms itself and reconnects, and he feels as though every time he used this magic type, he used it when he's only in trouble. But he thanks Yami for it. So that lets us know that he used this body magic before. Someone definitely pushed him to the brink of using this magic type, and it could have been Yuno's father when he went to attack the Grim Belial family. And Yuno's father probably put up a good fight because Gatoroids did explain to Yuno that our leader took the head of the king of the Spade Kingdom. So they probably had a tough battle. Yuno's father probably was clapping Dante, and Dante used this body magic. And it's such a cheap magic type. It's so cheap, but hey, it works for him. Dante then goes on to attack Yami, and he's teleporting, which is bad because you don't One thing, he's teleporting, which is extremely powerful, but you don't want a giant teleporting. But Yami, he's still holding his own, he's dodging attacks, but eventually he used another death thrust and opens up Dante again. And it's just another L for Dante. His defense, he's lucky he can recover and regenerate, but his defense against Yami is terrible. Dante then compliments Yami, saying that you are just brilliant. In fight sense and skill, you are just ahead of me. I am so jealous. Wow, that is crazy that Yami is stronger than Dante. Full power Dante at 80%. Ridiculous. The kind of training that Yami has done during this time skip, we need to see it in the anime because this guy came back a monster. Dante then tells Yami that because of that, I cannot die. By that overwhelming power is not enough. You cannot defeat me. Life is irrational and unfair. And it's crazy because Yami can defeat this guy if he didn't have body magic. But we cannot rule that out of Dante because that's in part of his arsenal. It's like saying Asta wouldn't be beating some of these other guys if he didn't have anti-magic. We can't do that. We can't handicap him. But at the same time, this is such a cheap magic attribute. Yami is ahead of this guy in every aspect. It's really just unfair. Dante at this point has unlimited mana, while Yami has a shortage of mana at this point because he's running out. And it sucks. Dante then tells Yami while they are still fighting, while Yami is still dodging every attack from Dante, he compliments him and saying that you're a hard worker, you're doing miracles after miracles, you have great talent, but in the end, I crush and twist everything, so I win. That's supreme pleasure. Thank you, Yami, for coming here. And you see he eventually hits Yami. And he did some significant damage there because you see Yami's face, he looks stunned and blood is gushing out and everyone is screaming saying Yami. And then we see Asta. Asta, he's trying to get up and he's steaming, he is mad and saying that Yami is surpassing his limits more and more and I can't even stand up. And he's like, darn it, move my body. He's trying to lift himself up, but it's a struggle because he used so much of his anti-magic in his battle against Dante. Then he gets knocked out. It's a huge toll on his body, and he's seeing from the sideline that Yami is in trouble against Dante, and he wants to do everything in his power to prevent anything bad from happening. Because this is Asta's personality. He refused to give up. And then we see Yami comes to terms of conclusion. He's saying that it's over. I cannot defeat this guy. He just doesn't die and he has infinite amount of mana. I cannot win by myself. For Yami to admit that takes a lot of guts because he is the captain and he's trying to surpass his limits in front of his comrades. You know, he's trying to bring morale on their side and, you know, use this as motivation that he's going to stop this giant of a villain and try to prevent anyone getting taken away because Dante wants to take the Black Bulls. Well, some of them as arcane stage mages, since they are, he wants to use them in some sort of way. And Yami, he doesn't want that to happen whatsoever. So Yami then looks over at Asta and says, hey, I can't win without you, Asta. And Asta, it just, you know, the feels, it just hits him. You see all the flashbacks in this certain panel of every moment that Asta has spent with Yami. What's so sad about that, you know, just reading this and the emotion just hit me because honestly, this could be the last battle. You seeing all this raw emotion and flashbacks of the moments that they all spent together with Yami. This could be the last battle. You know, this was like a student and master moment. This was almost as if he was passing the torch. And we already know, we can see Asta being the captain of the Black Bulls later on, but this was very sad because I think a lot of us know the inevitable, but man, Asta then grabs his Demon Slayer sword. He stands up next to Yami. He says, yes, sir. And these guys, just, you know, these are the biggest chads of the series. They both standing up, flexing with the muscles out, holding their swords. And that was the end of the chapter. And this ending, you know, for this panel, it was my favorite part of the chapter. This made the chapter a 10 out of 10 for me because it was just, oh man, I would save a lot of that for the chapter breakdown. But if you notice Asta's design, you notice that he has his devil wings out and, you know, his eyes looking kind of weird, almost like his Black Asta form. But you notice that the anti-magic is not around him. Interesting, right? Or what could be the case of it is that he still has a little power of anti-magic still lingering and he's not at full power, so you see half you know, half completed form, or not even half, like a quarter. And that's probably the case here. Or he probably just not tapped into it fully yet, and we'll see next chapter that he will go all out with his anti-magic form. But I do believe that next chapter will be the last hurrah between this battle with Dante. And man, I'm getting chills from this. So overall thoughts, this was a 10 out of 10 for me. It's been a while since I rated a chapter 10 out of 10, but this was the one. You guys also let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you enjoyed this chapter, and also if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and notification bells on. Join my Discord, that's in the description. Follow me on Twitter, that's in the description as well. You guys have an awesome life. Take care of yourselves, and I'm out.